Here is another poem of mine. OxyContin Success. Systematic despair from a manufactured effect delivered in a pretty pill, near impossible to reject, pitched by doctors for their profit. While people are dying, why don't we stop it? An easy win for the war on drugs. These pills aren't natural, just pull the plugs of the factories that push them out, enough so none will be without. If this were food for the poor instead of poison that is at war with human life and human health, making the makers masses of wealth, then sell some more, up production. But we know this pill is destruction of home and life, parent and child, the ones dying all the while. CEOs sit back to observe how their profits are ahead of the curve. The lesson they learn: make more pills, no matter how many towns it kills.
Your poem, OxyContin's Success, sheds light on the devastating impact of opioid addiction and the pharmaceutical industry's role in it. It captures the tragic reality of profit-driven motives at the expense of human lives. It's a poignant commentary on a pressing issue. Well done in expressing this important message through your poem.
What role did the Sackler family play in the advent of the opioid epidemic?
The Sackler family played a significant role in the advent of the opioid epidemic through their ownership and involvement with Purdue Pharma, the manufacturer of OxyContin. Purdue Pharma aggressively marketed OxyContin as a safe and effective painkiller, downplaying its addictive properties. They used aggressive marketing tactics to promote the drug to doctors, often misleading them about its risks. This contributed to the widespread overprescription and misuse of OxyContin, which eventually led to a surge in opioid addiction and overdose deaths. Members of the Sackler family, who controlled Purdue Pharma, profited immensely from the sales of OxyContin, making billions of dollars from the opioid painkiller. Their aggressive marketing and sales practices have been widely criticized for contributing to the opioid epidemic in the United States. Legal actions, lawsuits, and settlements have been pursued against Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family in connection with their role in the opioid crisis.
Did the Sacklers or Purdue Pharma market OxyContin in any other country than the United States?
Yes, Purdue Pharma, along with the Sackler family, did market OxyContin in other countries besides the USA. While the opioid epidemic in the United States received significant attention, OxyContin was also marketed and prescribed in various other countries. The extent of its impact and the response to it varied from country to country. The marketing and distribution of OxyContin in countries outside the United States led to concerns about the potential for opioid addiction and misuse in those regions as well. Several countries implemented regulatory measures and monitoring to address the risks associated with opioid medications like OxyContin. The opioid crisis is not unique to the United States, and its effects have been felt in different parts of the world, although the specific circumstances and responses have differed.
What law firms represented the Sacklers in the United States of America?
As of my last knowledge update in September 2021, the Sackler family was represented by various law firms in legal matters related to Purdue Pharma and the opioid crisis. One of the law firms that represented the Sacklers was the law firm of Davis, Polk & Wardwell, LLP. Please note that legal representation can change over time, and it's possible that the Sacklers may have changed their legal representation since then. For the most current information on the law firm representing the Sacklers in the USA, it's advisable to consult the latest news and legal sources or conduct an online search for up-to-date information.
Was OxyContin manufactured in the USA?
Yes, OxyContin was manufactured in the United States. It was produced by Purdue Pharma, a pharmaceutical company based in Stamford, Connecticut. OxyContin is a brand name for the opioid pain medication oxycodone hydrochloride, and it was manufactured in various formulations and dosages in the USA. It became widely prescribed for pain management, which contributed to the opioid epidemic in the country.
Did Florida manufacture OxyContin for Purdue?
Florida did not manufacture OxyContin for Purdue Pharma or any other pharmaceutical company. OxyContin was primarily manufactured by Purdue Pharma in its own facilities, which were primarily located in the northeastern United States, particularly in Connecticut. Purdue Pharma had its own manufacturing plants to produce OxyContin and other pharmaceutical products. Florida may have had distribution centers or pharmacies that dispensed OxyContin, but the manufacturing of the drug was not conducted in the state of Florida. The manufacturing of pharmaceuticals is typically done in specialized facilities under strict regulatory oversight.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions or need further information, feel free to ask. I'm here to help.
How many opioid overdose deaths were recorded between 1999 and 2017?
Between 1999 and 2017, there were approximately 399,230 opioid overdose deaths recorded in the United States. This period saw a significant increase in opioid-related deaths, driven largely by the misuse and overprescription of prescription opioids, including drugs like OxyContin, as well as the emergence of illicit opioids like fentanyl. The opioid epidemic during these years prompted extensive efforts to address the crisis and its devastating impact on public health.
How many people died in the 9/11 attacks?
The 9/11 attacks, which occurred on September 11, 2001, resulted in the deaths of approximately 2,977 people. These attacks involved the hijacking of 4 commercial airliners by terrorists from the extremist group Al-Qaeda. 2 of the planes were flown into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, causing the collapse of both towers. Another plane was flown into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and the 4th plane, United Airlines Flight 93, crashed in Pennsylvania after passengers attempted to regain control from the hijackers. This tragic event had a profound impact on the United States and the world.
Can you divide the number of deaths from opioid overdose you gave me by the deaths on 9/11?
Certainly, let's calculate the ratio. Number of opioid overdose deaths between 1999 to 2017, 399,230. Number of deaths in the 9/11 attacks, 2,977. To find the ratio of opioid overdose deaths to 9/11 deaths, 399,230. Opioid overdose deaths, why 2,977, 9/11 deaths, but 134.1. So, there were approximately 134 opioid overdose deaths for every 1 death in the 9/11 attacks during the specified period. This comparison highlights the scale and impact of the opioid epidemic over those years.
How does this relate to the assertion the Sacklers committed crimes? Quote, unlike a drug case, which is about connecting people to a transaction, in nearly every white-collar case, it is clear who was involved in the transactions. The question is, what were they thinking? Stupidity is not a crime. Risky behavior isn't a crime, no matter how many innocent people got hurt by that stupidity, greed, or recklessness. In this country, we put people in jail when we prove they knew they were doing something criminally wrong. That's hard, but it's right. Close quote. FBI Director James Comey, New York Bar Association, 2014.
The assertion by FBI Director James Comey that we put people in jail when we prove they knew they were doing something criminally wrong emphasizes the principle that criminal prosecutions in white-collar cases often require proving not just that a crime occurred, but also that the individuals involved knowingly and intentionally engaged in criminal conduct. This principle applies to a wide range of white-collar cases, including those involving corporate misconduct, fraud, or other financial crimes. Regarding the Sacklers and their involvement with Purdue Pharma, allegations and legal actions against them typically revolve around their role in marketing OxyContin, their knowledge of its addictive potential, and whether they knowingly engaged in deceptive or fraudulent practices. Prosecutors would need to establish through evidence and legal proceedings that the Sacklers were aware of the harm their actions could cause and intentionally pursued those actions with that knowledge. It's important to note that the legal process is complex, and the outcome of any specific case depends on the presentation of evidence, legal arguments, and judicial decisions. Whether or not the Sacklers committed crimes related to their involvement with OxyContin would be determined through legal proceedings and the burden of proof required by the law.
If hypothetically the Sacklers knew in advance that their marketing strategy and manufacturing capacity would result in the death of a single American citizen, would that legally qualify as malicious intentions?
Hypothetically, if it could be proven that the Sacklers knowingly pursued a marketing strategy and manufacturing capacity that they knew would result in the death of a single American citizen, it could potentially qualify as a criminal offense, depending on the specific laws and charges brought against them. Intent is a crucial element in many criminal cases. If it could be established that the Sacklers had the intent to cause harm or were reckless to the point where they knowingly endangered lives for their financial gain, they could face various criminal charges, such as manslaughter, conspiracy, or other offenses related to their actions. However, proving such malicious intent beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law is a complex and challenging process. It would require a thorough investigation, presentation of evidence, and legal arguments, and the outcome would ultimately depend on the specific circumstances, applicable laws, and the judgment of the legal system. It's worth noting that hypothetical scenarios should not be taken as definitive legal assessments, as the legal system operates based on specific facts, evidence, and the interpretation of laws in real cases. Legal determinations would be made through legal proceedings, and the burden of proof would be on the prosecution to establish criminal intent.
Of course. Thank you for eluding my hypothetical scenario.
You're welcome.
Indulging.
Hypothetical scenarios can be a useful way to explore complex legal and ethical questions. If you have any more questions or scenarios you'd like to discuss, feel free to ask. I'm here to help.